Good morning, and thank you for joining me today. This morning we'll be in Matthew chapter 24, verses 29 through 51. Immediately after the suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man arriving on the clouds of heaven, with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet blast, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Learn this parable from the fig tree. Whenever its branches become tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also you, when you see all these things, know that he is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. But as for that day and hour, no one knows it, not even the angels in heaven, except the Father alone. For just like the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. For in those days, before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and given in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing until the flood came and took them all away. It will be the same at the coming of the Son of Man. Then there will be two men in the field, one will be taken and one left. There will be two women grinding grain with a mill, one will be taken and one left. Therefore stay alert, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have been alert, and would not have let his house been broken into. Therefore, you all also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise slave, whom the master has put in charge of his household, to give the other slaves their food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom the master finds at work when he comes. I tell you the truth, the master will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that evil slave should say to himself, my master is staying away a long time, and he begins to beat his fellow slaves, and to eat and drink with drunkards, then the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not foresee, and will cut him in two, and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Yeah. So, Jesus is again here talking about the coming of the end of the age, that is, the time of the tribulation and his return. And the imagery given is apocalyptic in the most literal sense. The sun will be darkened, the moon won't give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Yeah, and I think it's important to recall to memory that this the stakes of this world are high, and eventually there will be a judgment day that all of us have to undergo, and we'll each be judged according to our works, and if we aren't covered by the blood of Christ, then we'll suffer the judgment of God. As it stands, which is frightful. Yeah, and you have here in 24:38, for in those days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and given in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. That is in the same way that the contemporaries of Noah didn't realize that their doom was upon them. That is, that the flood waters were coming, and they didn't go into the ark, their only means of salvation, in the day that it was available. They missed it. They didn't realize that destruction had come upon them because they were in the middle of marrying and being given in marriage and eating and drinking, when they should have been seeking to save their lives. Yeah. So, need to stay alert. Let's see here. But as for that day and hour, no one knows it, not even the angels in heaven, except the Father alone. I believe that this is about the Father's discretion and choosing when that day is to happen. The ancient Jewish ritual concerning marriage of a bride and a groom is such that the Father ends up choosing the day which the groom, his son, will retrieve the bride. And everybody had to be ready for that. Yeah, this is not saying that Jesus is somehow ignorant of this, especially in his divine nature, because that would conflict with the Holy Spirit being divine at that point and being fully God. Let's see what Guzik has to say here. This parable from the fig tree. The fig tree has a regular pattern. The leaves appear and the summer follows. When you see the leaves, you know summer is near. The fig tree was a common fruit tree in Israel. It is mentioned many times in the Old Testament, especially as a description of the abundance of the land. Sometimes figs or fig trees are also used as symbols or pictures. In passages like Jeremiah 24, 1 through 10, and Hosea 9, verse 10, figs or fig trees are used as a representation of Israel. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Jesus assured that when these signs appeared as he foretold, the abomination of desolation, followed by great tribulation, followed by signs in the heavens, his return to the earth would follow. When a fig tree buds, there is an inevitable result. Summer is near and fruit is coming. In the same way, when these signs are seen, the coming of Jesus in glory with his church to this world will inevitably follow. Really, it was just as Daniel prophesied in Daniel 12:11. The end will come 1,290 days after the abomination of desolation. Jesus assures that the agonies of the Great Tribulation will not continue indefinitely. They will have an end. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till these things take place. This statement of Jesus is one of the central reasons many have looked for all or most of the events of this chapter to be fulfilled in AD 70, approximately 40 years after Jesus spoke these words. Yet, as previously argued, to assert this is to greatly stretch the most natural interpretation of the abomination of desolation, of the severity of the great tribulation, of the cosmic signs, and of the coming of the Son of Man. It is better to let those passages have their most natural meaning and to fit this promise into that framework. It has been suggested that the word generation could also be translated race, and as a promise that the Jewish race would not be extinguished and would survive to the end. This would be a valuable promise, but some commentators, such as France, claim this is an embarrassingly wrong translation. Yet others, such as Adam Clarke, who strongly believe the events of this chapter were almost all fulfilled in AD 70, writes, "This race." Yeah, of that day and hour no one knows. To give this idea the strongest emphasis, Jesus claimed that this knowledge was reserved for his Father only. It emphasizes the foolishness of any later person making certain predictions regarding the prophetic timetable. Yeah. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. Since the day and hour of this coming are unknowable, Jesus' followers must be on constant guard for his coming. I think one of the main points here is that we need to act in accordance to what we've been called to do here, which Jesus has prescribed that we love the Lord our God with all our hearts and with all our souls and all our strength, and love our neighbor as ourselves, and to be a light to the world type thing. So we shouldn't disregard these things, especially because we don't know when God is coming back. 1 Corinthians 2:2. For I decided to be concerned about nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. Yeah, so this is going back to the knowing portion there. That is, but as for that day and hour, no one knows it, not even the angels in heaven except the Father alone. And 1 Corinthians 2, Paul says, "When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come with superior eloquence or wisdom as I proclaimed the testimony of God, for I decided to be concerned about nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified." It's not as though Paul forgot everything in this world except for Jesus Christ and him crucified. Rather, it's selective knowledge that Paul is relying upon here. And in the same way, Christ is not ignorant of the day or hour. It's selective knowledge. Yeah. So. Carrying on. Psalm chapter 30, verses 1 through 12. I will praise you, O Lord, for you lifted me up and did not allow my enemies to gloat over me. O Lord my God, I cried out to you and you healed me. O Lord, you pulled me up from Sheol. You rescued me from among those descending into the grave. Sing to the Lord, you faithful followers of his. Give thanks to his holy name. For his anger lasts only a brief moment, and his good favor restores one's life. One may experience sorrow during the night, but joy arrives in the morning. In my self-confidence I said, I will never be upended. O Lord, in your good favor, you made me secure. Then you rejected me, and I was terrified. To you, O Lord, I cried out. I begged the Lord for mercy. What profit is there in taking my life and my descending into the pit? Can the dust of the grave give praise to you? Can it declare your loyalty? Hear, O Lord, and have mercy on me. O Lord, deliver me. Then you turned my lament into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and covered me with joy. So now my heart will sing to you and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will always give thanks to you. Yeah, so thanksgiving for deliverance from death, which, in the case of Jesus, he was brought up from the grave. And then finally, Proverbs chapter 7, verses 24 through 27. So now, sons, listen to me, and pay attention to the words I speak. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not wander into her pathways. For she has brought down many, fatally wounded, and all those she has slain are many. Her house is the way to the grave, going down to the chambers of death. Yeah, so this is carrying on the previous passage on the adulterous woman who goes out and finds this man on the way to her house and takes him. But the man is wandering to his death. So this proverb admonishes his son not to turn his heart aside to her ways and not to wander into her pathways, because it's a common it's an end that many men have met. Yeah, and that's one of the advantages of the book of Proverbs and wisdom in general is that it preserves the life of those who listen to it. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Solomon understood that adultery and sexual immorality begin in the heart. They don't begin in the hormones or glands, and they don't begin in the heart in a romantic sense, in the sense that the heart describes our deepest loves and desires. A heart that does not properly love and desire God, but loves and desires pleasures more, will turn aside to sexual immorality. Her house is the way to hell. That wasn't how she saw it or described it, but it was true. Wisdom teaches us that things are not as they are often presented or perceived. Rare is the person who willingly, knowingly takes the way to hell and descends to the chambers of death. The power of temptation and the tempter lies in concealing this result, and wisdom sees what is concealed. In the hour of sin's glamour, it is good for the soul to look through to the end, which is in Sheol and the chambers of death. When the voice of the siren is heard, it is good to pause and listen to the moan of the breakers on the shore of darkness and death, for to that shore the way of impurity assuredly leads. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.